If you really want to understand a country, all its history, its conflicts, its incredible changes, sometimes the best way to do it is to zoom way, way in, to look at just one single neighborhood. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving into the story of Jangpura Bogal in Delhi, because its story, well, it's the story of modern India in miniature.
So let's start here, with this door. It's locked, it's seen better days. Every place has its ghosts, right? Well, this isn't just an old house. Think of it as our way in, a doorway into all the layers of history that make this neighborhood what it is today.
Because this place is really a neighborhood of arrivals. More than anything else, that's what defines it. It's like a living archive, a place where wave after wave of people have come and completely reshaped its identity.
There's this really fantastic word for it, a palimpsest. It's an old manuscript, where the original writing was scraped off so it could be used again, but you can always see faint traces of what was there before. That's Jangpura Bogal. New stories are always being written over the old ones, but nothing is ever totally erased.
And you can actually see those layers right here. It all starts back in the 1920s with a colonial project. Then, boom, 1947. The trauma of partition brings this huge wave of Hindu and Sikh refugees who totally redefine the area. Fast forward to the 80s, and families are fleeing violence in Kashmir. And starting in '79, right up to today, you have waves of Afghan refugees seeking safety. Each group, each event adds another layer to that palimpsest.
So how do all these different groups manage to live side by side? Well, people there have a word for it, Vaishara. It means brotherhood, this sense of camaraderie. It's the ideal, right? The social glue holding this incredible mix of people together. But that ideal? It was about to be tested in the most extreme way possible.
And this is where the story takes a sharp turn. The neighborhood's own story suddenly gets swallowed up by the nation's story. A massive national crisis was about to come crashing down on these very streets.
This quote from the time just cuts right to the heart of it. This wasn't just politics. The very survival of India's democracy was suddenly on the table.
It happened almost overnight. People talk about the midnight knock. On June 25, 1975, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared a state of emergency. Just like that, civil liberties were gone. The country literally woke up to a new and pretty terrifying reality.
And the sheer scale of the crackdown was, well, it's just staggering. Just look at this number. According to Amnesty International, 140,000 people were arrested and thrown in jail. No trial, nothing. We're talking political opponents, activists, journalists, gone.
So how'd they pull it off? There was a playbook. First, you censor the press. Any story the government didn't like was just killed. Then you use a law called MISA to arrest anyone you want. You sideline parliament, and pretty soon a thick atmosphere of fear settles over everything, making people afraid of their own neighbors.
And right at the center of this whole period was one of its most powerful and most feared figures, the Prime Minister's son, Sanjay Gandhi. He had a grand vision for India, and he had bulldozers to make it happen.
I mean, just look at the contrast here. On paper, his program sounds, well, you could almost call it progressive. Family planning, clearing slums. But the reality on the ground was a nightmare. We're talking forced sterilization drives and violent demolitions that were cynically called beautification.
And this quote, wow, it says everything. It shows you how personal and arbitrary this power was. This wasn't some grand urban plan. The story goes that if Sanjay Gandhi decided he wanted a better view of a monument, entire communities could be bulldozed, just like that, to make it happen.
All this tension finally just exploded at a place called Turkman Gate in April of '76. Residents came out to protest the demolitions, to protest the sterilizations, and the state came back at them with overwhelming force. It escalated so fast, it started with people throwing stones, it ended with the police opening fire on their own citizens.
Eventually, the emergency ended, but it left these incredibly deep scars, not just on the country, but on the soul of neighborhoods like Jangpura Bogal. And believe it or not, that wasn't the last test this community would face.
Because less than a decade later, another national trauma hit home. During the anti-Sikh violence of 1984, that ideal of Bhaichara, it just shattered. Sources say that in some cases, locals actually joined the mobs, looting the shops and homes of their own Sikh neighbors.
But, and this is so important, at the exact same time, in the very same crisis, other stories emerged. Stories of camaraderie, of neighbors protecting neighbors, of communities standing together against the violence. It just shows you nothing here is simple. It was a place of fracture and solidarity, both at once.
Which brings us all the way back to our big question. In a place built on so many layers of trauma and togetherness, of arrival and departure, what does that word, baichara, what does brotherhood, really mean?
Is it a real thing that holds people together today? Or is it more of a nostalgic memory? You know, a nice idea about a simpler time that maybe never even existed in the first place?
If you ask the residents themselves, you don't get one easy answer. You hear the anxiety of change. We don't know who our neighbors are anymore. You hear straight-up prejudice. The neighborhood will soon turn into Afghanistan. But then you also hear that ideal, people still calling it a space of living together. And you hear totally different takes on the past, some saying the refugees brought a positive transformation. It's all there, all mixed up together.
And that's the neighborhood today. It's a place of constant, messy negotiation, where Sikh property dealers rent apartments to Afghan refugees and Kashmiri traders share the street with Tamil migrants. That palimpsest we talked about, it's not a finished document. It is absolutely still being written every single day.
In the end, the story of Jungpura Bogle really forces us to ask a much bigger question, one that applies to all of us. In a world that feels like it's defined by constant arrival and erasure, what is it that actually holds us together? Is it memory? Is it shared interests? Or is it something a lot more fragile, something we have to choose to rebuild over and over every single day?